So today, um, we're gonna talk about the dangers of not following through. The dangers of not following through. Just to briefly kind of talk about that title, I'm gonna talk about Samson. And you guys, if you were on a few weeks ago, we talked about don't answer the call of sin, basically. And a lot of times we keep going back to different things that we've been free of, or we go back to things that no longer serve us purpose or things that just seem familiar. We tend to go back to those things because it just is comfortable, or it's because what we know, or because sometimes we may still have a stronghold or some residue is left over. And so I kind of want to not piggyback, but kind of like going a little more detailed and kind of talk about Samson and how he was anointed. He was called to free his people from the that stronghold of the Philistines. And but how he basically it really didn't matter how anointed he was, how much strength he had, how strong he was. um he still decided to do his own thing, and he allowed for, his flesh to take over. He allowed for just he just really wanted to do things his own way. And I was talking to my mentor a few weeks back, and I was like, God's will say we have free will, but when you really are called to like do something ministry wise, or you called in this life, come on, thumbnail Cornisha, it's giving. When you call to this life, you don't truly you can agree to disagree, or you can let me know what you feel about this comment, but I don't think we really have free will, because at the end of the day, as Christians, as those that are called and chosen to really do something, God gonna get the glory at the end of it. Like, if he wants you to do something, he gonna make sure you get it done. Like, it's gonna get pushed out. And then I can kind of back this up with Samson's story at the end of it all. Like, he wanted to do things his way, sleep around, all this, but at the end of it, he still killed them Philistines. He got them free. Judges 13 and 5, but we'll be coming from 13 through 16. And I'm not gonna read all those chapters, but if you're taking notes, and you can just go and read it on your own time. Judges 13 and 5 says, "You will become pregnant and have a son whose head is never to be touched by a razor, because the boy is to be a Nazarite dedicated to God from the womb. He will take the lead in delivering Israel from the hands of the Philistines." Or how many of you are familiar with the story of Samson? Because for me personally, she said I love his story. And shit, let's be real, free will is like what our flesh wants to do. That is, man. Let me hold on. I got a screenshot. I got to copy and paste that one, Rachel. I'm about to use that for something. Hold on, let me put that in my notes, because I love that interpretation. Chris said she loved his story. So, confession, I've never actually read Samson's story until probably like maybe a month and a half ago, and I've been studying Samson like the last 4 weeks. And so the only thing I really knew about Samson was that he was strong, and that he was sleeping with this girl named Delilah, and she really wanted to know his strength so bad, and she cut off his hair, and he lost his strength. Boom. Literally, that's the end of the story. Like, it's like it was no, like, that was the ending of the story. Like, so I never really knew until I dove into it, and I resonated with it so much. And so basically, just a few notes I took down. Basically, the angel of the Lord came to Samson's mama and was like, "Look, baby, you better not drink nothing, no wine. You don't need to drink nothing that's unclean." Let me share my screen real quick. You don't need to drink nothing or eat anything unclean. And don't cut that baby hair, because he is to be a Nazarite. He is dedicated to God. And so that goes back to Judges 13 and 5. The purpose of that is to the purpose of that is basically we referring back to Judges 13 and 15. He had a job to do. Samson would be instructed on freeing the Israelites from the Philistines' oppression. And that goes back to what I was saying. I had no idea Samson was set out to, actually free all his people from, a whole nother group of people, based off just hearing the same old story. So Judges 13 and 24, it says, "The woman gave birth to a boy named Samson. His name was Samson. He grew, and the Lord blessed him. And the Spirit of the Lord began to stir him while he was in Manadan." And I believe that was a particular city that they lived in. So in Judges 14 was basically that if you read it from the NIV version, it basically have like subcategories. And this category was talking about the marriage, and it was talking about this riddle that Samson had. And so for me, when I read this part, I felt like, and this you could see on the screen, I felt like this is when things kind of got tricky. Once Samson was, he finally on earth, he finally grown, he doing what he want to do. But it was weird because he desired to be with a Philistine woman. And so his parents was like, "You sure you want to do that? Like you supposed to be killing the Philistines. You sure you want to go over there and find somebody?" And it do seem crazy, but seeing as though God put Samson on earth to free his people from the Philistines, like, okay, why would you want to go over there and do that? So in Judges 14, um Samson went down to Timnah and saw that there was a young Philistine woman. When he returned, he said to his father and mother, "I have seen a Philistine woman in Timnah. Now go get her for me as my wife." And so I thought that was funny because it was like his parents wanted to protect them from the beginning. When the angel of the Lord came to them, they already knew, you can't eat this, you can't drink this, and we're not gonna cut that baby hair because he got a work to do for the Lord, right? And so let's see. Let me go to the next one. And this is just continued. His father and mother replied, "Isn't there an acceptable woman among your relatives or among our people? Must you go to the uncircumcised Philistine to get a wife?" But Samson said to his father, "Get her for me. She is the right one for me." His parents did not know that this was from the Lord, who was seeking an occasion to confront the Philistines, for that time they were ruling over Israel. So for me, when I noticed that, I feel like this was a good stopping point for me to just acknowledge that we see the stuff that we see like as a way for us to protect somebody or intervene. God will really use all things to get the glory. Just like in the Bible it declares that, like, what the devil meant for evil. I know we most of us have heard that. I actually went and found that scriptures in Genesis 50 and 2020. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. And so God used this moment, like I just said, to intervene. He used this moment to intervene so that his will may be done. And so you can advise, but you can't necessarily save everyone. You should let God handle the situation. And so I'm kind of guilty of that. I've been guilty of that in the past. Like, I don't know. I'm a giver and I'm a lover. So I feel like, man, I gotta save this person. I gotta help this person. And sometimes, like, even in my mentor sessions, I feel like sometimes I over mentor because I just want to see the good in everybody and I want them to do their best. Or if I notice somebody isn't reading their word like they really want to, sometimes I may go above and beyond. Like, I want to almost do the work for them, but you can't want something more for somebody than they want for themselves. Not to get off topic, I just want to throw that out there. So we're gonna go to the next thing. So the next section, well, right before that, let me go back. So basically, I don't know if you guys read that, but God's plan was still at work, but Samson's own desires led to unnecessary complications on his way to Timnah. He ended up killing a lion with his bare hands. So then the spirit of the Lord came on him, and later on, the lion's carcass made bees. A beehive was in there, and he ended up eating the honey, which was considered an unclean act. So Samson is supposed to be unclean. I mean, supposed to be clean. He supposed to be this man of God. So in that time, he wasn't supposed to be doing, eating anything unclean. He supposed to be doing the work of the Lord, right? So yeah, you needed that. I'm glad that helped you, Rachel. And so I don't have this scripture, but this is still in Judges 14. I'm just going over some of my notes. And so out of the eater, something to eat, out of the strong, something sweet. So that was a riddle that Samson came up with at the wedding. And so the Philistines, y'all know we trying to beat the Philistines right now. So the Philistines, they go to his wife and threaten his lady, talking about, we gonna burn you and your daddy if you don't give us the answer to this riddle. So basically Samson was like, I'm gonna give away these 30 pieces of linen for whoever can get this riddle. And I really think that was a setup. Now that I'm thinking about it, he probably was setting them up so he can just capture them and start beating them down for no reason. Well, not for no reason, but to start doing what God called him to do. And so The wife was more so upset that her own husband didn't tell her the riddle for whatever reason. I don't know. She kept on nagging him about it. And so she did that for some days. So finally Samson ended up telling her. But then the Philistines went to the wife and was like, "Look, you need to tell us what this riddle mean. We need to know because we want to get the prize, basically." So Samson end up giving the answer or whatever. And so Samson, he was so slick with it. He said, "If you had not plowed with my heifer, you would have not solved my riddle." So basically he was like, if you ain't go over there, getting on my wife trying to get the answer, you would never got it from jump. So he ended up killing 30 of them. And he ended up taking their stuff to pay off the debt that he had. And he was so mad at his wife, he ended up giving his wife to his best man, which was so crazy to me. I didn't understand that. I still got to do more research on that, but I thought that was crazy from jump. So this is where we get to revenge and escalation. This is what I call this section for myself. And now we're in Judges 15. So Samson returns to his wife with the goat, but her father won't let him in because she's been given away. Now, mind you, Samson then gave his wife away to somebody else. Like, oh, okay. Well, now you want your wife back all of a sudden? So he gets angry and he sets 300 foxes on fire. He ties the torches to their tails and he burns the Philistine fields, right? So the Philistines end up burning Samson's wife and they burned up Samson's father-in-law in retaliation. So Samson, what he decided he was gonna do, he said, "I'm about to slaughter all these Philistines." Like that by this time, like y'all didn't got my girl, y'all didn't got my father-in-law. Like I just got married, but you know in the Bible they don't really give you a whole timeline, so no telling how long they've been married by now. So let's see. So it says when the Philistines asked who did this, they were told Samson, the Timonite son-in-law, because his wife was given to his companion. So the Philistines went and burned up and their father to death. And so by now at this point they looking for Samson. So 3,000 men, they end up going to the cave where Samson was to talk to him. And so I think I'm getting ahead of myself. So Samson said to them, "Since you've acted like this, I swear that I won't stop until I get my revenge on you." And he attacked them viciously and he slaughtered many of them. And then he went down and stayed in the cave in the rock of Edom. So basically he had went back to his hometown and his people was like, why would you go over there messing with them? Like, don't you know they trying to kill us? Like they rule over us. They lord over us, Samson. Like, why are you doing this? Like, we don't understand. And so let me make sure I'm not getting ahead of myself. So they ended up tying him up or whatever, and they end up bringing they tied him up. They was like, "Can we please just tie you up because we got to give you over to these people because they about to come and get us." And so they end up tying up Samson. Samson's like, "As long as you don't do nothing to me, that's fine." So Samson ended up going on about his business. He went after he was in the cave. Let me go to the next. While he was tied up in verse 14, it says the spirit of the Lord had came over him and the ropes end up binding up and they end up dropping off him. So the spirit of the Lord came upon him again, and he ended up having this donkey's jawbone, and he killed 1,000 men. Now imagine, I couldn't imagine nobody having a donkey jawbone and just going around, going around killing people. Like that is so crazy. So this is the story, like I said earlier, we're all familiar with where people like to talk about Delilah. So up until this point, scripture shows us that Samson dealt with sexual sin. If you read on your own time, he's sleeping with women he had no business with. He's yielding to his lust, and it was never one time a mistake for him. It was always something he just kept going back to. In the Bible, it says it only mentioned 3 incidents. But if you really like go into more detail, it basically showed that like that was his downfall. Like he just kept that was his thing. Like I want to sleep with who I want to sleep with, all while I know I have this anointing on my life. So it's almost like he was living a double life. Like yeah, that's like preachers. Let me give an example. Like they got some anointed preachers out there, boy. They can cast out demons, cast out devils, get you saved, get you on the right track, do this, do that. But at the end of the day, they still can. They doing their own thing, and it's their own flesh that they fighting too. So that's kind of how I can compare it in today's terms of Samson. So in Judges 16, I'm not gonna go into too much detail, but Samson ended up going to Gaza. He sleep with a prostitute, but then he ended up going and finding Delilah, right? That's a Philistine woman. Now, why is you sleeping with the Philistine woman and you know that you supposed to be killing them people? So this is what got me because, like I said, growing up, they only just really teach you that Delilah, she was sleeping with Delilah and he cut her hair. I mean, she cut his hair. So I started reading more, and basically they were saying, the Philistines, they went to Delilah and was like, look, girl, you better find out his strength because we got to take him down before he take us down. So she asked him 3 times, and each time that man was lying. And I think God gave him a pass. He probably had to repent, y'all. But he was like, the first time he said bowstrings. The second time he said new ropes. And the third time he said braiding hair. On the fourth time, he finally told her the truth. And he says, and this is in Judges 16 and 17, he says, no razor has ever touched my head. Um, no razor has ever been used on my head. If my head was shaved, baby, my strength would leave me, which is so crazy. Imagine if somebody just came and cut your hair and then you lost all your strength. That's crazy. I would lose it. So let's see. This is basically like if you following, this is the dangers of not following through with what God has told you. If you would never went over sleep with that woman, your hair would never got cut, right? Okay, so let's go ahead to Judges 16, 1 and 2. And then I'll go back to that one real quick. So this is Judges 16 and 1, and we almost done, y'all. Literally at the end. One day, Samson went to Gaza where he saw a prostitute. He went in to spend the night with her. The people of Gaza were told, Samson is here. So they surrounded the place and lay in wait for him all night. Baby, they wanted him to be laying at the gate. They made no move during the night, saying, at dawn, we'll kill him. So then Samson prayed to the Lord. This what got me because he was like, all right, I need to pray because I gotta get myself together now. And I think I'm ahead of myself, but they actually end up so y'all after Delilah end up finding out his strength, she shaved his hair, and then that's when the Philistines actually got him and they gouged his eyes out and all that other stuff. So now we're in the part where Samson is like, man, I didn't really messed up. Like, Lord, I need you to really save me. Because at this point, like God didn't really grace you with everything. I'm sure he probably was good looking in his time, getting whoever he wanted. He probably had the money. He probably was just like the best thing walking. But at the end of the day, he was being disobedient and not fulfilling all his calling. So he ended up praying to the Lord, Sovereign Lord, remember me, please God, strengthen me once more and let me with one blow get revenge on the Philistines for my 2 eyes. I know that's right. Then Samson reached toward the 2 central pillars on the temple, stood, bracing himself against them, his right hand on one and his left hand on the other. Samson said, let me die with the Philistines. Then he pushed with all his might, and down came the temple on the rulers and all the people in it. Thus he killed many people, more than he died. Thus he killed many more when he died than when he was alive. That's crazy. So imagine him killing more people just by him pushing them pillars down. Like, that's crazy. Basically, the Philistines, they won. They had got their victory over them. They finally came and captured Samson. He no longer strong because he kept falling into his own pits. He kept falling into his own sin. He had his own downfalls versus finishing the assignment that he was given at birth. And so then Samson, of course, like we just said, with his eyes gouged out, is forced to entertain them. But then at the end of his completion, he died, but he could have lived a more fulfilled life had he followed through. But like I said, God still got the glory. But that sucked for him because had he just did what he was supposed to do, he probably could have lived a more fulfilling life. He probably could have did way more. There's just a couple notes as I close out. Samson's lust and lack of sexual discipline were a major weakness. Number one, he was distracted from his assignment. Number two, it opened him up to betrayal. Three, sexual sin, soul ties, unchecked flesh led to his downfall. That's good. Unchecked flesh. That could be anything that's not even just that. That could be something dealing with fruits of the spirit. Sometimes you got to check your heart. Like, have you been kind today? Was you kind to yourself? anything with fruits of the spirit, like there's making you feel some type of way. Was you mad at somebody today? Did you check yourself? Check your inventory. That's good. And lastly, I said, show the danger of being anointed but undisciplined. And I resonated with that so well because I felt like the past maybe few weeks, like I felt like I dealt with it. Like I'm coming out of one thing, I'm good on that, but okay, why is it that I'm not going? Why is it that I'm not listening to the word of the Lord? Why am I not really doing what He have called me to do? Why I'm being disobedient? And it has to do with a lack of discipline. Like I lack discipline. I saw a post that said, you don't struggle with deliverance, you just lack discipline. And then I end up seeing another video today on TikTok, and that's really a lot of our issues. Like we just ain't got no discipline. So I got another note. Even in his failure, God still used him, but the outcome came with great loss. And so with that, God kept showing me, all right, Christian, even my mentor, I reached out to my mentor and she was like, God may still use you regardless. Like, but you risk the chance of being used even greater, or you risk the chance of your life really being fulfilled how it should be, just doing the things that you want to do. And God will say, okay, you go ahead and you do what you want to do, all right, but you ain't gonna really, I'm gonna give it that assignment to somebody else, and you're not gonna really reap the benefits of what you really been praying for, what you really want. So for us, I would say this is a lesson for us. When we are anointed, when we're chosen, our assignment is not optional. And that's why I mentioned the thing about we don't really have free will. Delayed obedience is disobedience. And when we don't follow through, we may still be used by God, but it'll cost us something. Don't downplay your calling. Don't let distraction rob you of your destiny. And that is it for tonight, ladies. Thank y'all for hopping in the comments. Let me see if I can go.